Good morning, and welcome to Redeemer Lutheran Church. I'm Pastor Gary Lodeholt. This week we are exploring some times in the Bible when people cried out to God for help. Today features a story that was told by Jesus. And since it's a story, it didn't really happen. However, it happens every day. It's not the best known of Jesus' parables. Indeed, it is probably a story we've never paid a whole lot of attention to. We tend to focus on things like the Good Samaritan or the prodigal son when we think about the parables of Jesus. But this little one about an unjust judge is meant to give us much hope and comfort as our hearts cry out to God. There are two main characters, a woman and a judge. The woman we would call a nag. The details of her case are unclear, but the fact that she is a widow has caused many to speculate that her deceased husband's family wasn't caring for her as they were supposed to according to the law. But actually, whatever her case was, isn't important at all. What's important was that she kept coming to the judge to get him to hear the case. He would refuse, and the next day there she would be again. Over and over it was happening this way. The judge is described as unjust. That's what it means when it says he feared neither God nor had respect for people. In today's world, we might think that to be a good thing, that we had an impartial judge. But in the days of Jesus, it was a very bad thing. What Jesus means is that this man is concerned only with himself. He's not going to hear any case on its merits, and instead he's likely to take bribes and decide cases by what's good for him and what he wants. But what's even worse is that he doesn't fear God. What that means is that he wouldn't work to decide any case with equity. God was the foundation for all their laws. Cases were supposed to be decided according to the laws that God had given. But this judge cares not a whit for that. He's unjust to his very core. And so, maybe it's not convenient for him to hear the widow's case, and so he doesn't. Or maybe he's good friends with her opponent, so he ignores her. Or maybe he just didn't want to be involved or bothered, so he turned the other way. And yet there she was, day after day, nagging him to hear the case, until eventually he grants her justice so that she'll just quit bothering him, and it can all be behind him. And that's it. That's the end of the story. It's a simple little story, and we get to the end, and we may look befuddled and wonder, what in the world is that supposed to mean? Well, first of all, let me tell you what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean that we are supposed to nag God in our prayers. Some people pray like that. If I ask God over and over, they think, God will eventually do what I want God to do. But you know, that's a pretty self-centered, manipulative way of praying, isn't it? Look at what Jesus says next. Listen to what the unjust judge says, Jesus remarks. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? In other words, Jesus is telling us that God is not like that unjust judge, not like him at all. God is eager to hear our prayers, eager to answer, eager to respond. God loves us, Jesus says. And you almost get the idea that God is already answering before our prayer is completely out of our mouths. That's why this is a story of comfort and assurance. Jesus reminds us that God is there indeed, there to hear, there to answer whenever our hearts cry out to God. Jesus reminds us that God loves us and that God's ear is attuned to us always. We'd call her a nag. We'd call him unjust. because of his love for us, we call God ours. Thanks for watching, and remember to let this day belong to God.